Let's be real for a second. Have you ever wondered if there's a better way to make those huge life decisions than just, going with your gut? Well, it turns out there is, and it's all about some hidden math that, once you see it, is going to change how you think about pretty much everything. Think about this. Every single day, you make somewhere around 35,000 decisions. Yeah, most of them are tiny. What to eat, which email to open first. But a handful of them, the big ones, they're going to define the entire course of your life. And for those, your intuition can be your worst enemy. This quote just nails it, right? For the decisions that actually shape your life, vibes are a disaster. I mean, when we're talking about your career, your money, or your relationships, just relying on a good feeling is a recipe for a total mess. It's time to upgrade our mental toolkit.
And hey, this isn't just some abstract theory. The author of our source material learned this the really hard way. They spent months agonizing over moving to Paris, not with data, but with these late-night pro-con lists just swirling around in their head. The vibe felt right, so they pulled the trigger. And it was a mistake, almost immediately.
So how do we stop that from happening to us? Well, here's our game plan. First, we're going to dig into one single formula that can solve a shocking number of your problems. Then, we'll expose the mental traps that fool all of us all the time. After that, we'll upgrade our thinking with some seriously powerful tools, and finally, we'll build a simple checklist you can start using today.
All right, let's start with the big one. Seriously, if you only take one thing away from this whole explainer, make it this concept right here: expected value. This thing is the engine that runs all rational decision-making. Okay, I know what you're thinking, a math formula. Don't worry, the idea behind it is actually super simple. For any choice you have, you just multiply the chance of something happening by how good or bad that something is, you add it all up, and boom, you get a single number that tells you what that decision is worth on average.
Let's make this real. Imagine your friend offers you this exact coin flip. Your gut might be screaming, "No way, I could lose $100. And you're right, you could. But what does the math actually say? The math says that, on average, every single time you take this bet, you will make $25. See, a 50% chance of winning $150 is worth $75, and a 50% chance of losing $100 is worth -$50. You add them together, and the bet has a positive expected value of $25. Mathematically, it is always the right choice to take this bet.
Now this is where expected value gets really powerful. Let's apply it to a choice we all face. Do you stick with the safe, guaranteed salary, or you take the risky startup job? Your gut is probably screaming, take the safe option because of that 40% chance of a pay cut. But look, when you run the numbers, the riskier path has an expected value that's almost $60,000 higher. It is, by the numbers, the better choice.
So if the math is so clear, why do we get these big decisions wrong so often? Well, it's because our brains are full of bugs, these cognitive biases that literally prevent us from thinking clearly. Let's shine a spotlight on the 3 most common culprits. All right, pop quiz time. There's a really rare disease and a test for it that's 99% accurate. You take the test and it comes back positive. So what do you think the chance is that you actually have the disease? Most people, even doctors, their gut instinct says 99%. But they're walking right into a trap. And here's the shocking reality. The actual chance is only about 9%. What? Why? It's because of a little thing called base rate neglect. Our brains get fixated on that 99% accuracy number, and we totally ignore the most important fact. The disease itself is incredibly rare. That positive test result is way more likely to be a false positive than the real thing. Okay, here's another trap. You're 30 minutes into a movie you paid $15 for, and it is just awful. Do you stick it out to get your money's worth? We've all been there, right? This is the sunk cost fallacy, and it goes so far beyond bad movies. It's the reason people stay in jobs they hate, hold on to stocks that are tanking, and stay in relationships that just aren't working. We get tricked into thinking that the time or money we've already spent should somehow influence our decisions for the future. The key here is realizing that the past is gone. That money is spent, that time is gone. The only question that matters is this: knowing what I know right now, would I make this exact same choice today? If you wouldn't buy that stock at its current price, you sell. If you wouldn't take that job offer this morning, it's time to start looking.
And now for our final mental trap, survivorship bias. Our world is basically designed to show us only the winners. We hear about the college dropout who became a billionaire, but we never, ever hear about the thousands of others who just went broke.
This bias messes with our perception of reality everywhere. On social media, you see the one person who turned $500 into 50 grand, not the 500 others who turned it into zero. You eat at the one restaurant that survived for years, totally unaware that 80% of them fail. You hear the one song that went viral, not the other 90,000 uploaded that day that went absolutely nowhere. We are constantly being shown the winners, the numerator. To make good decisions, you have to force yourself to go looking for the denominator.
Okay, let's switch gears. Now that we've identified the bugs in our thinking, let's talk about installing some serious software updates for our brains. These are two really powerful tools that the world's best thinkers and forecasters use to overcome these biases and see the world more clearly.
First up is something called Bayesian thinking. So instead of forming an opinion and then defending it to the death, a Bayesian thinker acts more like a scientist. They start with a guess, an initial belief, and then, as new information comes in, they update that belief, not all at once, but piece by piece, proportionally. Here's how it works in real life. Let's say you think there's maybe a 10% chance your coworker is quitting. Then you notice they updated their LinkedIn profile. Okay, your belief doesn't jump to 100%, but it nudges up, maybe to 34%. Then they start taking all these mysterious calls outside. Okay, now you're at 70%. See, each new piece of evidence rationally adjusts your level of confidence.
So, you've used expected value to find a great opportunity, you've checked yourself for biases. The next huge question is, how much do you bet? Do you go all in? Do you just dip a toe in? If you bet too little, it's a waste, but bet too much and you're being reckless. Well, believe it or not, there's actually a formula for this. It's called the Kelly criterion, and it calculates the mathematically perfect amount to commit.
But here's a word of warning. The pure, raw mathematical answer is often really aggressive. In the real world, professional investors almost never go full Kelly. They'll use a fraction of it, like a half or a quarter. And this principle applies to life too. Instead of quitting your job to go all in on that side project, maybe you just drop to 4 days a week at first. The idea is to concentrate your bets when you have an edge, but always leave yourself room to be wrong. Okay, let's bring this all home. We have covered a lot of ground, but these concepts aren't just a bunch of random party tricks. They actually form a complete, coherent system for thinking clearly.
And this is how it all comes together. Think of it like a pilot's pre-flight checklist, but for your brain. Before you make any major decision, just quickly run through these 6 questions. It takes 5 minutes, and it forces you to check your gut instinct against the cold, hard logic of reality.
I want to leave you with this final, really powerful idea. The most dangerous moment for any of us is when we feel absolutely certain that we're right. That feeling of certainty, it's not a feature, it's the bug. That's your alarm bell, your signal to stop, take a breath, and run the checklist. So, as you go about your week, I want you to think about this. Whether it's a career move you're considering, an investment, or a big personal choice, don't just go with the vibe. Stop and ask yourself, what is the actual expected value here? I promise you, the answer might surprise you.